Hello, everybody, and oh gosh, I have to readjust this thing every single time, and it's starting to get a little bit annoying for me. I need a new one of these things as well. Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Creative Flair Podcast. My name is James Carter, and I'm going to be your little host today. And today we are going to be talking about art gallery representation in today's world, how it's changing, how it's evolving, and how it used to work. So, first off, art gallery representation. What is it, and why did artists need it? I keep leaning into this. I'm like, yeah, I need it much better out here, really. That way I can sort of like sit back and actually like explain to you and talk. But that way I'm too far away from the microphone. I can see little indicators going woo every time I move in and out. Anyway, art gallery representation. So this isn't going to be a very long one, but I'm going to explain to you how this sort of works a little bit. Once again, I will cross my legs, and then in 5 minutes, I won't be able to feel them. But this episode shouldn't be too long, so hopefully it's just a nice little thing that you can listen to or watch when you've got a bit of a free moment, really. Art gallery representation is something that many artists aspire to achieve and aspire to claim to. Art gallery representation is essentially where a gallery partners up with a particular artist, and that artist will then sell their works through the gallery. So the gallery will sell that artist's work to an audience and buyers. This takes a lot of the pressure off of the artists themselves to actually sell the work directly to artists. Galleries take rather a large commission though. Most galleries will take up to 50% of the entire sale of the artwork. And there's a lot of artists that will see this as outrageous and buffer overflow. What does it mean, buffer overflow? Did it cancel everything? And we'll put a confused now. Okay, does that work? Maybe? Okay, I'm sorry about that. My camera came up saying buffer overflow rate, and then it came up and did a big spinny thing saying recovering data. So I'm not sure how much of that was actually saved, recovered, or whatever, but I think it's working now. Art gallery representation is where an artist will give their work to a gallery, and the gallery has to go and sell the works. And I think I got up to the bit talking about galleries take up to a 50% commission for the sale of a work. And a lot of people and a lot of artists actually see this as a big ripoff. But if the gallery does their job professionally and does the job that they are built to do, then 50% commission isn't that bad, because artists need to sell their work in order to make a living and actually get buyers and people to want to buy their work. The other amazing thing about galleries is that they can actually provide repertoire and prestige for a lot of artists. If you partner up with a very prestigious art gallery, then undoubtedly your name will go up in value, and in turn, the value of your artworks will go up in value as well. This is where that's the traditional way that's usually always been for selling your artworks and selling the originals of your works. But in more recent years, and with the rise of technology and online platforms such as Etsy, have really allowed artists to broaden out and actually become very independent for themselves. So they can actually sell their works directly to buyers and directly to their audience. Now, I've talked a little bit about building up a social media platform audience in the past, and I'm not going to go into all of that today. I'm thinking about doing a much deeper dive into that in a future episode, but we're not doing that today. This is based off if you have an audience already. But even if you don't, it doesn't really matter, because having an it doesn't really matter if you've partnered up with an art gallery. It doesn't matter if you have an online social media following or an audience, because the gallery is meant to provide that audience for you. Yes, it's not so much online, it's very much in person, but when you get down to it, if you're selling your originals of your artworks in a gallery, then you only need to get one person who likes your artwork and is willing to pay for it. Now, galleries do a lot more than just sell your works as well. They do build up your repertoire. And the way they build that up is they will actually host solo shows for you as an artist. And that's what they're meant to do. And they will put on an entire exhibition and a show for your works if your artworks have been seen as good enough for that sort of thing. And getting art gallery representation is very challenging for a lot of people. And many people, especially nowadays, don't seek it. But there are still an awful lot of people that do want to get gallery representation. And one way you could actually look at how gallery representation works and what it is how almost as a manager for your artworks. And A way that somebody described it to me, and I've explained it to a lot of people since, is you could imagine an art gallery being the same as a record label for the music industry. The record label of the record label of a singer and an artist will distribute that that music, and their job is to host it, distribute it, and get sales for that album or song. That's their job. And their job is to get that song in front of an audience and get people listening to it. And art galleries work in a very similar way. An art gallery's job is to take your artwork and get it seen in front of people, which is very hard for a lot of people nowadays to actually do in person, because there's a lot of people that work online and people don't really go out to see many shows nowadays. I mean, I do, but then quite a lot of my friends do. But there's still a lot of people that will see virtual galleries and virtual online exhibitions and just artworks on the phone on Instagram. And art galleries are very much embracing new technologies, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And they're more and more becoming a thing of creating online virtual reality exhibitions. And I've attended a couple of those with my little headset VR thing. And they're really, really fantastic. And they put a lot of effort into it. And so that brings it back around to that's what galleries are there to do. That's what they're there to do for you. Because although you may turn around and say, yes, I could do that. And very rightly you could. But it would take an awful lot of amount of time and effort and skill to actually create something like that. And then even if you do manage to do it, you're then meant to get an audience to see that work and that gallery and that your work's in this exhibition, which is an awful lot of effort. And there's a lot of people that wouldn't mind the effort, which is absolutely fine. But it's that time that it takes for you to do that, which is why people pursue galleries and gallery representation. Because in exchange for them doing all of that effort, they will take 50% of the sale of your artwork. And more often than not, they will boost your reputation and value of your artwork by quite possibly thousands of pounds and dollars, which means that in the future, if you do decide to become independent, then more likely than not, your artworks will be much more valuable than they were before your gallery representation. Now, if you do choose to go out and get gallery representation, they would most likely make you sign a contract saying that you have to produce this many artworks and you have to sell all of your artworks through them for the span of 3 years, for example. And any commissions or sales that are made through the gallery, they will once again take 50% of the commission because they've got you those sales. They've got you that traffic. And once again, a lot of people think it's very, very unfair. I sort of 50-50 on the edge of it. I think that galleries put in a lot of effort and a lot of work in order to actually build up that audience. And they have built up the ability to provide artists with a reputation and a repertoire, which I think is fantastic. And so I do believe that 50% commission is well justified if the gallery does a very good job and they do the job that they're meant to be doing. If they do not do the job very well, then that 50% commission is not well justified. But it still, once again, does not mean that you as an independent artist can or couldn't do this yourself. So there's a whole other thing around independent artists nowadays. And independent artists are being able to sell their works online and through social media. There's a lot of people that will get commissions. So I've managed to get a few commissions through my Instagram page and my personal art page. Because if you're unaware, I am by trade a traditional artist. So I will be hired to create a portrait of somebody or paint somebody's animals or pets. And some of them are a lot of fun. And I've met some really fantastic people through doing these. And they're amazing. What they ask me to do and what I do is fine. And yeah. And so I'm very much an independent artist. But having a gallery representation for me personally would be absolutely amazing to have, because it would allow me to have an exhibition or have a show of my artworks, which would get my name out there more and allow you to network in the art world more. And networking in the art world is a whole other thing that's really, really complicated. And I do also plan to do an episode on that as well in the future. But sort of galleries as well, especially recently, that have become frightened of online representation, if you will, in the social media world of art because people are able to be independent artists nowadays. Back years and years ago, people were still able to be independent artists, but they wouldn't necessarily build up their fame or repertoire or reputation as an artist. Galleries have always been the go-getters and at the forefront of building up the reputation of an artist, which that is their job, and quite rightly, that is their job. It is very hard for an independent artist to build up their own reputation, especially in a very oversaturated world of social media art. But galleries are still quite afraid of more and more artists becoming independent. And there are some artists that will use the gallery in order to build up the reputation, and then they will disconnect and make a break from ties from that gallery and set out on themselves and become independent. Which means that that artist has then got to actually do all of the work that the gallery was doing, which is very hard for them. But it means they get to keep the full sum of the money they make. A lot of artists don't really realize how much effort, time, and money goes into creating an exhibition and curating an exhibition. The curation side of an exhibition is really full on, and I've seen it being done as well for a lot of exhibitions, and it's absolutely amazing the sort of people that do these works. And having that gallery representation can be such a great thing for a lot of artists. But once again, you don't necessarily need it nowadays, but there are a lot of people that would still see it as a very beneficial thing. I have always been an independent artist, and I sell my works through Etsy, and I sell my original works every now and again. But more often than not, I make most of my money from sales of prints of my artworks and a couple of commissions. They're fairly easy to get as an independent artist, but my works don't sell at auction, for example, because it's very hard to break into that market. Whereas if you were represented by a gallery, it is their job to make the sales. And what's really great and really interesting about galleries that I think is really good and fantastic is, although people think 50% commission of the sale of the artwork is a lot of money, when you think about it, you as the artist are just, I don't mean just as a derogatory term, but you are just creating the artwork. That artwork is not very much unless it's sold and actually makes you a living, which is the gallery's job. And the gallery, in turn, does not make any money. You're not paying them a salary or a weekly fee or anything like that. They will only make money off of the commission of the sale of that work. So they are increasingly trying to increase the prices and value of your artwork. And then when it sells, they take 50% of the money as well. And actually selling original works is very, very hard to do, especially if you're an independent artist. Now, yes, if you have a social media fan base and people that love your work and people that have the money to buy originals of your artwork, that would be absolutely fantastic and a dream for many people and many artists. But art galleries do that for a 50% commission, and they do it really well if you partner with a good gallery. But there's still people that don't think it's a great thing, and there's people that do think it's a great thing. I personally don't think that art galleries are going to go away. They are definitely a thing that's always been around, and they're a thing that aren't going away. They're staying. And if most art galleries are clever and smart about it, they will evolve with modern technologies. So the way that art and technology are merging together, such as through virtual reality exhibitions, virtual galleries, and sales of artworks. There are art galleries that have opened up purely in person, but as NFT galleries, which I think is a very controversial thing to think about and a controversial topic to talk about as well. But they're a whole other breed of art galleries. You do get a lot of local art galleries as well that are quite interesting and quite well done. And I think a fantastic thing that a lot of people don't consider is the creation of their own community art gallery. See, an art gallery doesn't have to necessarily be international or nationwide. It can be a local community gallery, which we've got a lot up here in the United Kingdom up north. And it's just usually an independent artist's art gallery that they've opened up in town, and they're okay. But I've seen a couple where it's a community of artists that have set out and created their own art community exhibition gallery thing. And they're really well done. And what that does is that drives those artists' work to be seen by people within the local community that are familiar with the surrounding area and actually build up the repertoire of those local community artists, which I think is a fantastic thing to do, which means you don't need to have that social media following or the reputation to be able to get into a national gallery or anything like that, or a national gallery representation. You can just set up as a local art gallery and then sell your works through there in person. And by doing that, you can then share the costs and spread the costs of the running of that gallery with other people in the community and the people that you would like to bring on board to boost their reputations as well. And in the future, I think art galleries are just going to continue to advance, but the traditional art galleries for local communities will not be left behind. They may not move with the times as much, but they don't need to if they're just community art galleries. And the traditional ways of doing it are very much set in stone. But there are a couple that will move with the times and they will evolve and move much further forwards, which is it could make or break a lot of them. And it's very 50-50 around how it's going to go and how it's going to be seen. I would personally love to see more and more art galleries move with technology and move with the times. And I think it's a fantastic thing. And personally, the way that I would like to see it done as well is not really happening. I should probably set up my own gallery. I'd love that. That would be so much fun to set up my own art gallery. And then I could help boost the reputations of others. But I'm already doing that with what I do with them. But that's one of those things, isn't it? So yeah, that's my little take on art galleries and art gallery representation and what it is. I know it's been a little bit of a short one, but this episode's been pre-recorded because currently, when you're watching it, I will be down in London looking at art and art universities and stuff like that. And so this has been pre-recorded. So yay, I don't usually often do this, but yeah, okay. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye-bye.